Hello and welcome to Good Games Well Played, episode 145. I'm Clint, aka JCM. With us this week is Messiah.
Hello.
And Isley may join us. He's having some internet problems right now. He's trying to reset it. If he's able to pop in mid-show, that's fine. But unfortunately, I have some things I got to do later, so I can't wait for him to solve the problem. But yeah, here we are. Got some news. Speaking of some hot fixes for Baldur's Gate, since Zai is playing Baldur's Gate. They patched in to make Gale chill out a bit about his hunger for artifacts. So light spoilers for Baldur's Gate 3, but our man, he's got a hungry tummy, and he has to eat some shiny objects from your inventory, and he'll often, I guess it's one of the things that'll make him pretty upset and leave your group if you don't give him one when he asks. But they toned it down. They said here, quote, "Poor Gale, we know your pain. Sometimes it's easy to read something into a situation that wasn't there. We sat him down and explained that if someone doesn't offer him a shoe to eat every time, that doesn't mean they never will. You'll find him more likely to stick around now." And there's the line from the patch saying, "Gale will no longer permanently leave the party if you don't offer him any magical items while talking to him, unless you're abundantly clear that you don't plan on ever doing so." So I didn't realize, I knew not talking to him was a way he would leave, like if he was just in your party at camp. But I didn't know that also if you did talk to him, but you didn't feed him, I mean, that makes sense. If no one fed me, I'd be like, all right, I'm out of here. But like, I need food. But he won't get all upset and yada yada. I also, it's interesting because I don't think it happens that much in the game. I think it's based on progression, because I think I only fed him like maybe it's like 2 times, and then he has it again where he's like, "Oh, the green, tier didn't work. I need like a higher tier of magic item." And then after that, he like spills the beans, I think, like completely like to the party. Like I think like we cross a bridge, and like he talks about it, but then he never asks again. So I just thought like, oh, he just must be keeping it under control, yada yada. So I'm like, did no one give him anything at all? Like, there's only a couple times they have to give him food, but
we only gave him 2, maybe 3 things, and he's never been in our party. He's literally just been at camp. So I just go, and there are options when you talk to him. That's be like, there's like the mean option that's like, this stuff is too valuable, I'm not going to give it to you. And then there's like the neutral option that's like, I don't know. But he does get like pissy if you don't give him anything, but you can just back out of the conversation. That's like, yeah, I'll get you something, just hang on, like, and then you can go give it to him. But I guess if you never do that, he can fuck off, I guess. But we only gave it to him like 2 or 3 times, and he never gave us some dialogue that was like, oh, it wasn't enough, because by the time he said that, that was kind of the end of it. He was like, oh, well, it's not enough, something's wrong, and blah blah, and he kind of spills the beans after that.
There's a funny bit where, like, if you find in Act 1, light spoilers, you can find the Necromancy of Thay, this book, and it's like a legendary book. And I think, if I remember correctly, Astarion's like, don't give it to Gale. I think that's like, what should we do with the book? And it's like, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to, you should keep it, yada, yada. And I think one of them might be like, give it to Gale to eat. And I think Astarion's like, do not do that. But it's pretty funny. So yeah, that'll calm him down. So you'd be good there. And then we also have news that Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl has been delayed again. This time it will be releasing on September 5th. I guess they ran into some, I thought maybe it was war related because they're a Ukrainian developer. But I don't know if they're still in Ukraine while they're developing. But they talked about it being like, oh, there's a couple, technical issues, yada yada, with some improvements they made, this and that. So they're just delaying it out of the release date they did have. So that's unfortunate. I know a lot of people looking forward to that game. And then we also got news that Microsoft picked up Frostpunk 2 as a day one PC Game Pass launch title. It's one of the, I think, most wish-listed games on Steam right now.
Really?
So yeah, Frostpunk's huge. So Frostpunk 2 is like, it's way up there, like, as far as wish-listed games on Steam. I'm like, oh man.
I don't know why. I always thought it was like a niche kind of game, but I guess, yeah, it is super popular. I hear about it a lot.
Yeah, as far as city builders go, like, I think it's like the one, like people love Frostpunk so much more. That's why I'm always like curious about other city builders that they can't, like there's that one that came out called Gore or something like that. Or no, it wasn't Gore, it was something else. It was made by ex Frostpunk devs and Witcher devs. We talked about it. It was very like, it seemed interesting, but I guess it like they didn't quite nail down the mix, because it also had like survival elements where you'd get, your city would get attacked and yada yada. And I have some other, you know, city building games on my Steam wish list, like New Frontiers. I think it was in beta. I had on there. Timberborn's a big one, but that one's on sale.
List too.
Yeah, that one's on. I think that one might be on sale right now. But that's like, I was like, oh, I could get that. But yeah, I'm just like, Frostpunk is just so good, and then I'm really excited for Frostpunk too. So, but I'm like, oh, well, I still have those, you know, PC Game Pass codes, or the Ultimate Game Pass from buying the computer. So I got like, you know, 6 months. I guess I could have it both, but I'm like, I'll probably just buy it because I want to support the developer. Just get it straight out right. And then in line with that, Sony picked up Foamstars as a PlayStation Plus exclusive for PS4 and PS5 when that comes out. Yeah. I know that. I think they are like, isn't like Square like tired of people saying it's a Splatoon like stop saying it's Splatoon. but
it is though.
Yeah, some different stuff in there, but yeah, I can say it. That was pretty funny. And then I'm curious. I mean, that makes sense for that game, because I feel like that's the kind of game where, you know, it could be good, but because of what it is, getting past, it's like I don't know, a weird kind of barrier of entry when there's a game like this where you're just like not sure if you want to commit to it. So it's like, it's the money portion. I was like, I don't know if I want to spend money and see if I like this. And I feel like we could get past that if Sony would adopt Steam's, you know, store policy, return policy, and stuff like that. Same for Microsoft. Like, do that, or have way more demos on your platform. And I'm sure the demos driven by the publisher and the developer, but it's like, you just need to, I don't know, you got to give people a chance to try something. But I feel like, yeah, PlayStation Plus is like the way. I mean, look at the classics like Rocket League. Like Rocket League exploded from PlayStation Plus, and there's other games that have been on Plus or Xbox Game Pass that get huge. But yeah, I'm curious if this, I mean, this will help people obviously get in that first month and whatnot. Like, I think Fall Guys was also, if I remember, I think Fall Guys when that came out was PlayStation Plus, and then
it was, because that's the only reason I have it right now.
Exactly, and then that game got pretty big, so it's like, okay, but it also got big on, you know, PC as well, because a lot of streamers played it. So it's like, it wasn't like, oh, it's only big on here because that's where it's free, but at least that lets people know, like, hey, this game is really good, or, you know, it's a lot of fun, and like yada yada. So I'm curious how it being on PS Plus will help its performance. Then also the news that Call of Duty. So we've talked a lot about anti-cheat in Call of Duty and some of the funny things they do. And now one of the ones they do, it's not nearly as funny, but it's like, if they detect people are using aim assist on mouse and keyboard, they're just going to close the application. And they're like, nah, just shut it down.
You don't get to be here.
Yeah, not nearly as fun as invisible enemies or bulletproof enemies and stuff like that. But, you know, it's a way to combat, you know, cheaters. So I thought that was a pretty funny thing. And then apparently there was a rating for a Far Cry spinoff. MP First surfaced a PEGI rating for a game called Captain Laserhawk Ninja Warrior. And Captain Laserhawk, of course, is the main character from the Netflix animation, which is based on Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. So it's like a spinoff of a spinoff. But yeah, based on the PEGI rating, which has now been taken offline, Captain Laserhawk is a PC multiplayer versus a multiplayer PvP. The way when people write out player versus player, it reads so weird, because it says is a PC multiplayer player versus player, like, because you're saying player back to back for multiplayer. You say multiplayer PvP. Like, it's a multiplayer PvP game with laser death matches. Player avatars break into pieces when hit, with blood appearing on the ground. There are microtransactions. It's such a funny PEGI rating. But yeah, apparently it's been listed. I'm curious what that would look like. I mean, it must be really small in scope if it's just a PC game and not listening to any of the platforms. I'm also, I guess, because there is within the universe of Captain Laserhawk, there is like a wrestling match in one of the episodes, and I guess they could be like that. Like, okay, well, if it's multiplayer PvP though, then it can't just be wrestling. It has to be like groups fighting against each other. So we'll see what happens there. But interesting. I don't know. But yeah, there was that. And then the last bit of news was Microsoft's had a showcase, a developer showcase, and they showed off a couple things there. But one of the big announcements that was interesting was that Hellblade 2 is going to be a digital only release.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, which is strange coming from Microsoft, because that'd be strange if it came from Sony as well. Like one of the big publishers, first party publishers, it's weird that they would make their game digital only. But yeah, it's they said here, this is from studio head Dom Matthews saying, we also took advantage of the freedom that digital only distribution offered us to create a game that of the length that fit perfectly with our intended experience, but could be sold at a lower price, because it's also being $50 for the game. Be sold at a lower price to reflect the shorter length of our story. This framework allowed us to focus on the things we really care about, taking our fans on an unforgettable journey into Senua's unique world. Which it was kind of odd though in that presentation. Like they came out right away, like saying, "Oh, it's a smaller title. It's like 9 hours or something like that." I'm like, the first Senua's game wasn't that long either. 9 hours is totally fine for that kind of game. Like I don't know why they got to be like, oh, it's only like setting tempering expectations. Like, oh, it's a short narrative game. It's not big, huge things like which I don't think we expected. But yeah, I don't know. It's just it was a weird thing. Oh, look who joined us.
Yeah, I think it's because at the start of marketing Senua, they marketed it as like a AAA game, and they tried to play it up as this like big huge thing, and then I think people's expectations got out of line with reality of what the game actually was. So it was kind of like a walk it back situation.
Yeah, I guess because also you've been showing it off for so fucking long. I think like 2019 is when they started showing it. And it's like you get acquired by Microsoft, so there's probably like, oh, they got that big Microsoft money now. It's gonna be expanding in scope, I guess. But whatever. But yeah, they had
there's probably some level of like Senua was. It was one of the first games that like jumped from Sony to Microsoft, and people just wanted it to be like, this is the PlayStation killer. Like it got wrapped up in those kind of bullshit politics, I think, and that just made it like, well, this is unrealistic now.
Yeah, I suppose there was some weird discourse from someone in games media saying how because they also showed Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and that's first person, and they're saying, oh well, probably the reason they didn't make it third person is because then all the Sony fanboys would come out and say how it's a lot like Uncharted or yada yada this and that, even though Uncharted is inspired by Indiana Jones. And it's just like such a weird take to say, because I'm like, I don't think, there's going to be toxic fan base out there, but to be like, oh, this is why they didn't, because to get out of the way of these Sony fanboys that are going to trash, like that's a weird position. But yeah, the digital only release for Senua's Sacrifices is strange, but I don't know. Because I follow Dark 1X1 from Digital Foundry on Twitter, and he's a big proponent of physical media. And I'd commented on being like, I always thought it was weird that video games never went the Blu-ray route of releasing the physical with the digital codes at the higher price. And then someone replied to me saying like, oh, well then now they have two games, and then they might have to make the disc tied to your console and yada yada, and how it could be a big problem. Like, you're just making up a problem. Like, it doesn't exist. You can't say like, oh, it would be like this. And even if it was, it's like, I doubt they would, because like, yeah, what are they going to be worried about? Oh, I'll just use the digital code, which of course can only be locked to my account. But then what? I'm just going to give the game disc to my friend? It's like, yeah, that's a possibility. That's a possibility with the Blu-ray DVD combos. I mean, I used to give the DVDs away sometimes to a friend or a coworker because I don't watch DVDs. I have the Blu-ray. You know what I mean? So I'm like, it's like, yeah, but the percentage of people who are doing that, it's like there's already game sharing with, having the same account on multiple platforms. They obviously curtailed how many versus from like the PS3 era, which would be 5, but it's like just the 2. But I'm like, if people really wanted to game share nowadays, they just do that. So I'm like, I don't know why it would be that much bigger of a deal. Plus, you in theory pay more money. I mean, the Blu-ray combos were always more expensive than the Blu-rays by themselves. Though typically when they would go on sale, they were the same exact price. So you just buy them when they release. You get the Blu-ray. Like I bought Oppenheimer. It's like I got the 4K Blu-ray, I got the Blu-ray, I got the digital code. So it's like I got them all now. It's like and in most cases when I buy movies like that, when I watch them, I just watch the digital, but I have the physical if I ever want to put it on, like, you know, to get that perfect bit rate, or, you know, way back in the day, it'd be like go to someone's house, you know, that I could take the physical media there to, you know, or let them borrow it, be like, hey, I watched this great movie here, you watch it. But I always thought it was weird that we didn't get that with video games, which I feel like would have been and even if they did bind it to your console, it's like, I guess if they did that, they would probably they could just go the multiplayer pass route. Remember the online pass that they had back in PS3 era, where it's like you could return the game to GameSpot or GameStop, and then they can resell it. But if you wanted to play that game online, you had to buy a $10 Game Pass to get the code again, which is, you know,
that's right,
a funky program, and it was short-lived. But I mean, you could do something like that to be like, oh, hey, just, you know, a couple extra bucks, like $5 or something, and then just build that into the price of whatever to get another, you know, essentially a CD key to link to your account. But I'm like, still, it's like you can't be losing that much money by just bundling the digital code with the physical code or with the physical game. So I don't know, man. It's a shame. I know, like, with Best Buy dropping all their physical media, and then I think rumors that Walmart's going to do the same thing. Or I think there was like a rumor that apparently Xbox was pulling their physical stuff from Walmart, and it was like,
really?
it was a leaked memo. I'll have to I'll Google it in a sec, but it's like a leaked memo that they were pulling it, Xbox games to be removed from Walmart. See, Walmart reportedly starting to purge physical games next week. This is from a day ago. I'm reading this from comicbook.com's first one that came back. But let's see. Walmart's reportedly gearing up to start getting rid of some of its physical games. Yada yada. Digitally. I'm trying to see here. I'm trying to really like that. Okay. Oh, it's from Wario64 on Twitter. That's right. That's where I saw it. Who quote tweeted Andrew Marmo, the Marmalade. That's a funny username on Twitter, saying, you know, Walmart to start removing physical games in stores, starting with Starfield copies. And there's like he has leaked images with it that say, let's see, due January 26th, Department 5, remove and discard Starfield Xbox video game. On Monday, January 22nd, the Xbox Series X Starfield video game will be marked down to 3 cents to prepare for its disposal at store level. Thank you for helping process this items on our shelves. Product must be gathered and processed through claims by Monday, yada yada. It has like this, you know, steps, and then it says let's see here, use Xbox. Okay, accept the markdowns to 3 cents in the Me at Walmart app, availability, yada yada. Just these claims codes and all this there, but it's just these steps for marking out. It does say with Starfield, so it doesn't just say with. So it could be a case of maybe in this instance it's purely Starfield's not selling physically in the store, not Xbox as a whole. But then they report, you know, I guess Mario 64 also said, I saw this memo earlier as well, not through the same exact screenshots. Walmart will prep to remove Starfield Xbox physical copies from their stores and yada yada. So it looks like it's just Starfield. So just going to be a case of they're overstocked and it's not moving, which is, you know, you put games on sale and you can go. So it might not be just, you know, Xbox altogether or games altogether from Walmart, but in this case it's just Starfield. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, if Best Buy is going to remove physical media, who knows if what other stores going to? Because I'm wondering if they'll see like an influx of people buying physical media from their stores. Like, will people go to Walmart now to buy the physical stuff, the movies, and everything, versus just getting them online at the website? Because I don't think I've gone into a store to buy a Blu-ray in forever.
No, usually what I've been doing lately for new releases is I don't typically pre-order very much anymore. I'll usually just go on the website the day that it comes out, like in the morning, and buy it for pickup, and then I'll just go after work and either pick it up in the store or have them bring it out, you know? So, I mean, I guess that's technically going and buying physical media at the store, but I order it online.
Yeah, I typically get them online because I find that at least recently, it feels like the 4K bundle versions of movies are cheaper online than in store. But
well,
I mean,
like,
yeah, go ahead.
It's just easier. Like, it really is just easier getting them online.
Yeah. I used to like when, I'd browse, maybe just, go to Best Buy for something else. I'm TV shopping. And then I'd also go by and look at the Blu-rays. Like maybe they have a sale going on that someone else doesn't. I can see like, oh, there's, here's a box set for something that's on sale. It's like, oh, it's the Band of Brothers Blu-ray set. Okay, I'll get this or this and that. Like I used to do much more browsing when I went to the store for something else, but I haven't gone to the stores. I mean, last time I went to Best Buy was to get some networking stuff because I didn't want to wait. I was like, I wanted to get it immediately. Like if I don't have an immediate need for something, it's like I just order it online. But it's like if I have that immediate need, then I go to the store. But that's pretty rare when it comes to like electronics, like stuff that's not, household toiletries or food. It's rare that I need something like today.
I mean, I also think there's a level of like, if I'm not going to shop at Amazon, like I'll use books as an example. Like if I'm not going to buy a book on Amazon, it's because I'm going to like a local bookstore and trying to support some small business.
Yeah, same.
For like Best Buy, I don't feel that. Like it's not like I'm going, oh, I want to not shop at Amazon so that I can support my local small business Best Buy. Like that's just not a thing. If there was like, I live close to like a small downtownish area, and I'm like, yeah, if that small area had a local game shop, sure, I would go there to pick up everything. But they don't. There's no mom and pop game store here to purchase from.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go with what's most convenient, and that's almost never going into a mall that's 30 minutes away to pick up a game in a situation that bothers me because I hate going to malls.
Yeah. And then like the only thing I like going to the electronic stores for is, like I said, looking at the TVs, seeing them on the wall, checking out different specs. Well, usually nowadays I do all the research well ahead of time. And then I go and buy it from the store because I'd rather go pick it up locally than have it, order through Amazon and have it delivered that way. It's like, I'll take it, put it in my car, or get someone else's car and we'll put it in there. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting stuff. But yeah, the other things for the developer direct, they showed more Avowed. They had the devs talk there, and it's like I watched it and I was like, the combat still it's weird because the combat even looks stiffer than it did in the trailer from like 7-9 months ago, and it's like it's still stiff. And someone in a podcast that was on Game Scoop, I think Mark Medina, was saying how it looks like a VR game, and I was like, that's really what it is. Almost like they slow the enemies down, at least in the trailer. And I'm sure maybe they move more aggressively in the actual game, but they have like that one shot in the trailer where it's like, or you can do more powerful spells. And like the lizard guy is just standing there, not attacking the player. And then they cast like the spell and then it just falls over dead. And I'm like, that, I guess if you were playing on story mode, sure. But it seems so like anticlimactic. Like it wasn't like you pulling off a big magic move and yada yada. It's also like, it was just so weird.
Like
but
it
yeah,
feels like there's no stakes in the combat if they're just standing there waiting for you to do stuff.
Yeah, and like the enemy went to swing and there's like a delay in the swing animation, so you have a second to bring up your shield and block it. And they do that standard block, but they hold that pose for a sec, so you have that time to counterattack and stuff, which seems very VR like. And they're like, oh, and you could dual wield wands. It's like the only game where you can dual wield wands. I'm like, yeah, you could dual wield wands in Divinity, but if you're talking first person, sure, okay. Yeah, only first person game where you can dual wield wands. Okay, sure, go ahead. But it was just
I'll
a
give
weird
you that,
claim.
Whatever.
Yeah, It's like when they like it's the best selling game in the summer solstice when there's a full moon on the third week of this. It's like this weird caveat.
If it's fire weather.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's like it's so weird when you have to like keep adding qualifiers to make something sound like it's doing well. But yeah, it's I don't know, man. And maybe it'll play out better. And it was weird that they're like, oh, there's consequence, and like they show something, but they don't show you the consequence. They just tell you that these choices have consequence, but they don't give you examples. It's like it's like, if I tell my kid like don't put that fork in the outlet, it's like I'm not gonna tell them like why. It's like if they're like why, I'm like, I can't tell you why, but don't do it. And they're like, because you'll die. It's like
you're just gonna have to trust me. There's a consequence for your action.
Yeah, but yeah, it's I don't know.
It's a nice, very weird.
Yeah, it's a nice looking world, like it. But it is funny, like seeing. I'm like, oh, this looks good, but then I'm like, I just played. I'm still playing through bits of Avatar, and that game's just gorgeous. But like, I still like their art style in the Val. Like, it looks at that poster too, like the art for it, the key art they have, where it's like the skeleton, but it's like got like different sections of it or different stuff, like fungus and whatnot, and actual skeleton. Like, it's a cool. Whoever did that, like, great work. But yeah, I'll be curious to see how this game like actually shapes up to be once releases, because it really just that combat looks really kind of. It's similar to, and we'll jump into it, I guess, is the unless there's anything else from the direct someone wants to speak to. I know there was some other games there, but the Indiana Jones game, and anytime he attacks someone with the whip, I was like, it looks weird. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know. The whip attack looked really strange, but. And also using you use the whip as a distraction, like you crack the whip and like, huh, what was that? I'm like, really? A loud whip crack? They're like, who? Someone on podcast like, I wonder who walks around with a whip and is killing all these other Nazis.
Yeah, I wonder who could be making a noise like that and coming from this direction. It's like, oh, he's over here.
Yeah, because I mean, even like rock throwing, which is the common in most Ubisoft games, like I still think is kind of like. If someone threw a rock, I'd be like, okay, what was that sound? It came here. But if it's like, it sounded like a rock that hit the wall, clearly someone has to throw the rock, maybe look in the opposite direction or whatever. But it's like that, I could suspend disbelief. But the whip crack, and I'm like, that shit's so loud. Like, I'd be like, clearly, what the fuck? But
it's not it's always what was that and not where did that come from.
Yeah.
I feel like if there was a stealth section in a game and you try to make like a distraction, like throwing a coin or a rock or something, and the guard or whatever actually turned in my direction and be like, where did that come from? I'd be like, oh fuck, like
yeah,
I should have planned this better. I should have like Assassin's Creed, when you whistle, you find a place to whistle from and then you go somewhere else.
Like, yeah, or you lure them to the bush so you can kill them.
Yeah,
and like in Metal Gear, like you physically knock on the wall, and then you have to they go towards the knock, so then you have to leave. Like there's a consequence to you making noise, so you have to make a choice. Either you luring them to kill them, or you're luring them to that spot so you can run away. But you have to. There's more reaction from the player, not just cracking a loud ass whip. But it was that just seemed kind of silly. But yeah, it's in for, and they paid for the likeness of Harrison Ford. And some spots, like, it looks good, and other spots I'm like, yeah, like the way he smirks sometimes, I'm like, the lips don't look right. And obviously it's in early development, but it you could tell because like I'm assuming you both watched the trailer, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
Okay. But like the beginning when like the bad guy's talking to him and like his face looks really good. I'm like, okay, that's kind of what I expect from Machine Games, because it's like it's just probably a made up dude. But then it cuts to Harrison Ford and I'm like, okay, I can see like that trouble you get in trying to make it look like Harrison Ford. And I'm obviously you can't scan his face because he's old now. And so you just have to base it off young Indiana Jones from the movies and whatnot. So it's like, okay. But yeah, again, sometimes it looks good. and then sometimes it's kind of funky. And then when I heard the voice, I was like, this sounds like, it sounds really good, like to me anyways, like a young Indiana, like I'd imagine, because I just watched someone do, like, they finally watched Last Crusade on a React channel, so I watched that just the other day before the showcase, and I was like, this is a really good impression of like that younger Indiana. But then like a few seconds, I'm like, and this sounds like Troy Baker doing a young, because they didn't announce it was Troy Baker right away, and then I was like, this sounds like Troy Baker, and then but it's like it's that weird. I talked in Discord the other day, like those word things, like the brainstorm green needle, where like you hear whichever one you actually reading, or like Laurel and Yanni. Like I can hear both Indiana Jones, and I can tell it's Troy Baker doing the voice. So it's like it's this weird situation where like it's believable, but I could tell that he's doing it, and it's also interesting because. Sorry, one sec. Normally, when people do a voice, it's typically never like the younger version of that person. You know what I mean? It's like they do the voice, and it's either the voice or like an basic imitation of the voice, like a Christopher Walken. But it's never like, okay, do this person, but when they're younger. And it's like he does a great job of that, because like when you watch like the Dial of Destiny, like I watched like the opening bits of it, but like they de-age his face, but it's just Harrison Ford talking, so he's got his old man gruff voice, not young Indiana voice, and it's so weird. So I'm glad they got someone to like come in and do that younger voice, and I think he does a really good job. But I mean, it looks interesting. It'll be curious to do like a first person traversal like that. They do show third person in some instances, like when he's climbing up some stuff. But yeah, I'll be curious to see how. I mean, it's machine games, right? And I'm curious how it'll turn out. But right, were you at all interested in that game? I know you played Wolfenstein, but were you at all interested, Isley?
Honestly, not really. It doesn't scratch the same itch for me, and it's like I don't know. It's been soured due to everything in pop culture the past 10 years. Like I don't know. I don't really care about Indiana Jones, or I did when I was a kid growing up, but the recent movies I haven't really enjoyed. The return to Harrison Ford and stuff, I'm like, yeah, it's fun, but I just don't feel strongly about it anymore. And what I've seen so far, it looks decent, but it doesn't look different or like amazing enough that I care about it yet. When it comes out, if it gets like perfect 10s across the board or something, yeah, I'll figure out a way to play it. But otherwise, probably not.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, it takes place between Ark and Last Crusade. It's like, okay, it could be anywhere. It wouldn't matter. It's not like I'm gonna be like, oh, clearly this takes place between. It's like I don't think that really matters. But
I mean, I'll put it this way: like, it's similar to the Star Wars franchise right now for me, where like with the main Star Wars franchise, I haven't really cared about the new movies, and the things I've been interested in are things that break the formula, not things that continue the formula. Like, I like when it's evident that people are trying something new versus it just feeling sort of like a cash grab. And thus far, Indiana Jones sort of feels like a cash grab to me. Obviously, that can change with more information and everything, and I don't want to be too pessimistic about it. It just, I don't know, I watched it and I'm like, that looks cool. I have like 10 other games on my list that I want to play first. And usually when that happens, I just don't end up playing the game.
Yeah. I feel like it could be really cool if like the environmental puzzles are really fun, because obviously that'll be the one thing that's different versus stuff they've previously done with Wolfenstein. So it's like if you can have some cool puzzles, that would be really interesting. And if they're spaced out, like that's something like when the Tomb Raider reboot happened, like people were like, oh, I wish there was more puzzle stuff, because they kind of relegated them to those little quote unquote like tomb side areas. They weren't really that there.
Tomb Raider is actually a great example though, because Tomb Raider is like Tomb Raider, I feel, iterated a lot on the Indiana Jones formula, and some of those games are amazing, and like when they tried the open world survival stuff, I actually thought that was really cool. But now that Indiana Jones is coming out after all of those, it's like, okay, so what does this do different or better? And I just haven't seen what that is yet.
Yeah.
Like, if you took Lara Croft out of Tomb Raider and put Indiana Jones in it, would it feel the same? And I'm kind of like, well, put a whip and Indiana Jones in there, and kind of.
Yeah, I'm curious how much the perspective will help kind of anchor it down, because it is one, like, it not being third person as well really kind of could make you feel more like
that. Yeah, that might do it. If there, I don't know, like, I do think you're kind of onto something with like the puzzles. If there's more detective work or something like that that makes it feel different, that could feel really good.
Also, I'm curious like what the supernatural element's going to be.
Yeah, even that, I'm like, you try to separate it from Uncharted, and I'm like, I mean, Uncharted is based off of Indiana Jones. Like,
I was just gonna say,
you're not gonna separate it from that just by changing the perspective. So like, I'd almost rather they just like lean in and just try to make a really fucking good game. But I don't know. I guess I do want something to feel really polished or different or good about it that I can point to and be like, Uncharted. Like, I can think of some pretty big faults of the Uncharted series. Going back and playing the first Uncharted game, things like that. Like, it's really linear. The gunplay is not great. Like, it was fun when it came out, but the gunplay is not great. And I'm like, any of those elements really polished would make an Indiana Jones game stand out. What I'm kind of worried about is in their goal to differentiate from Uncharted, which is based on Indiana Jones, they just make it not feel like Indiana Jones.
Yeah. I feel like it's probably going to be in the combat, right? Because Machine Games has got that locked down. Could be in the way they set up the encounters could be better and whatnot. And I tend to prefer first person to third person in video games, regardless of the genre or what have you. I like exploring worlds, especially if you got like big open areas. I'd rather see them in first person. Like I probably wouldn't enjoy Avatar or the Far Cry series as much if they were third person. Like I get that third person from Assassin's Creed, right? It's like, okay, I can explore these. It's a different game to me. Whereas like, even like Fallout, they have third and first person, but I don't play them in third ever. I only play them in first. Same with like Skyrim and what Elder Scrolls. It's like I'd rather be in first the whole time.
Well, is that just because they're really fucking janky though in third person? Like, you jump and you just see your character kind of like float up into the air, because that's why I play those games in first person.
Yeah, but I mean, even like when like Fortnite came out and eventually PUBG like patched in, they added like a first person perspective mode that you can queue it for, and a lot of people switched that because it was just better to play a BR in first person. And then people are like, oh, what would Fortnite look like if it was first person? And it never got that change. And then Apex comes out, and that's why I made the switch, because I prefer first person. But and obviously people can have a preference either way, but I feel like that could be a big differentiator for it versus those other games. Even if it was third, like I'm sure it could still do things that would be different. And maybe the story is, Todd talks about how it's something he's always wanted to do, yada yada. So who knows how much that'll make it in there. But yeah, when I saw it, it's like, okay, yeah, it looks interesting, but I'll have to see more when it comes out. And I'm curious like how many places are going to visit, how open are the levels going to be, this and that. So I'm sure it's going to be a big release when it comes out. Right, it's supposed to come out this year apparently. But yeah, that's I think that's all I got from the news. Not much else from this week. Like I said, the Microsoft developer showcase was kind of the biggest one. I did see earlier in the week there was a YouTuber who had previously they made like the slimmest PlayStation 5, and then they created a tablet version of a PS5 where they put a screen on it, and I was like, this is kind of cool, like because they had like a stand on it. I was like, it's like the inverse of it's like if the Switch had an HDMI port on it versus needing the dock station, and like because then if it was just 100% what it was, and then you're like, oh, take it anywhere, and then just plug an HDMI into the Switch, and use it as a console. I was like, that would be essentially kind of what this looks like. I don't remember in the video if he did build in HDMI ports onto it or if it was purely just the screen with the kickstand. But I was like, man, if Sony did something like this, like, I don't know if I'd use it because I don't, maybe because I do take like a family vacation once a year to like Tahoe and stuff. Maybe I would take it there because I could just play it. Or if like I took more, if I had to go on business trips or something. But it was interesting, looking at it. Being like, this would be I guess it could be a cool product. They build screens for consoles that you can attach to them. Like clip on the back and they plug in HDMI. That way you can just play them on the go. Like I've done that before in the past for other games. There's a company that makes like cases that do that specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I know Greg Miller has used them in the past. I think PS4. I don't think they've done one for PS5, but they had one for like PS4.
Didn't they do that for the original PS1?
I think someone built. There was like a screen attachment.
An official console thing, like a PlayStation thing?
It was. There was the PS1 number 1, PlayStation 1, and then there was the PlayStation 1 spelled out, where it was like a compact version of the console that came with a screen.
Yeah, the Sony PS1 LCD screen. It would. I think you had to plug it in. You plugged it into the back of it, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you can get one on Amazon for. Oh, it must be the whole platform. Yeah. Not just a clip-on because it's $375.
Yeah, it's a whole like small console.
Yeah,
I want one really bad.
It's such a 5-inch LCD screen. So tiny.
It's so fun.
Yeah, but yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for the news. Go ahead and jump into what we've been playing. Go ahead and start with Izzy. What have you been playing?
I haven't made much progress on my Dirge run, sadly. I got distracted by GDQ and someone else playing Baldur's Gate 3. So it's been a lot of watching games being streamed as opposed to playing games playing new games. I also need to like figure out what to play next because there are so many games that I haven't played yet that I just like, I don't know. I want to play Remnant 2, but I need to find someone to play it co-op with.
Just play it solo.
I don't want to play it solo. It's such a good co-op game.
Is that the shooter one with the weird critters? The creatures?
Yeah, it's like the Dark Souls shooters, how it got described.
Yeah.
It's way less Dark Souls. It's like not linear, but it's level based in a way that Dark Souls like just isn't. But yeah, I mean, I love the first one. It was a ton of fun playing co-op, and I've been saving the second one for that, but hard to find. But yeah, I've watched a lot of GDQ this week.
I haven't seen. Have you been? I know you've been off and on seeing in Discord that you're in Baldur's Gate. I haven't seen you stream the little icon on the server showing that it's being streamed.
I've been streaming it every time we play.
Oh, I guess I must not have seen the icon.
Every time we play, I just load it up because why not? It's just there.
I must have missed it. Or maybe I happened to look like when you were just because you were like AFK a couple times. So like maybe you weren't in it yet, and then I just missed it when you were finally there. But how much progress have you made?
So we are in Act 2. We just I don't want to say finished, but we just did Moonrise Tower.
You guys are far.
You guys are kind of far.
Yeah, we're kind of cruising through. I think
that's what happens when you murder everyone.
Well, I haven't murdered anybody.
Michael has also already played it, so he kind of knows or something. Like, so man, because there's like a lot of stuff. I feel like so in between last episode and this episode, so you went to the Hag, did the whole swamp area because I don't. Yeah, okay, you did all that, dang, and you did the mountain pass and the crash and everything. Damn.
Is Michael like leading, or does he just like? I'm curious how quickly you guys are going versus like it's just Michael's familiarity that makes it happen faster. And I'm also curious like if that's still like if you feel like you're exploring or not.
He's letting me lead, basically. He's like, you just go wherever you want and I'll follow you. The only thing he's kind of leading on is if I'll tend to ask him to because I don't I don't get a lot of time to play in the evenings during the week. So it's like, if I do, I want to make progress. So if we do get through battles pretty quickly, which I feel is probably a lot of the gameplay of this.
Yeah.
He's been playing his solo game on Tactician, so he's really familiar with like the classes and stuff that he's played. So usually when he takes his turns, it's pretty quick, and he knows the best way to optimize it, whereas I'm like staring at all my druid stuff like, there's so many things on my bar, it's so cluttered, I get like overwhelmed a little bit. So we do get through battles pretty quickly. We're a little, maybe overpowered for where we are right now, because we're kind of blasting through stuff. So that I think helps a lot. And also, if we get to a point where most of the map is like uncovered and we've kind of done most of the side quest stuff, I'll ask him. I'll be like, is there anything worth looking over here? And he'll be like, oh, well, there's some treasure and there's probably something good, down there, but there's no like side quests or anything. I'll be like, okay, I'll just save that for, I might play a little bit solo today when he's like at the gym or whatever later, just because I talked to all of like the party NPCs at camp, because I haven't really talked to them. I did that solo, and then I'll probably go back to the Last Light Inn and talk to NPCs there, and just a lot of that stuff. So I imagine a lot of the gameplay time we've kind of skipped over because we're just going through and playing. I'm not like really stopping to talk to every NPC like I normally would, and kind of thing, because I'll ask him, I'll be like, is it worth talking to this person? He's like, it's kind of funny, but not really. I'll be like, oh, I'll just do it later, kind of thing. So but we tend to wait, and I'll ask him too. I'll be like, if we do this, is it going to change the NPCs that are around or whatever? And he'll be like, yeah, it's going to change. So I'll go back and talk to them and stuff like that. So, but he's not like, I think the only time he's really taken the lead on anything was when we went to Grimforge, because he was like, there's gross things in here, so I'm going to go and do some things and clear some things out. And I was like, you do that. I'm going to go to the bathroom because I don't want to be anywhere near it when you do that. And then in the prison of Moonrise, there was something he wanted from like a side quest server where we had to do it a very particular way. And he was like, this is how we do it. I said, okay, lead the way, because I don't want to fuck up your thing. But just stuff like that.
So you're saying you just went through Moonrise. You didn't necessarily do the whole fight that's there, like the big end of act
no
okay.
We went there the first time.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I don't really need to avoid spoilers or anything. We just went and talked to people, and we did the prison thing. We went down into the gooey tunnel and got the worm, and now we're going back to Last Light.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like why is there this gooey tunnel underneath it? But yeah, we're going back to Last Light to do more stuff, and then later on, we haven't gone to
that makes more sense. When you said all of Moonrise, I was like, oh, so you did the Gauntlet of Shar, you did this and that. I was like, you finished all of Act 2. I was like, you only have 45 hours in the game. How the hell did you complete Act 2 already?
No. We went to Moonrise, and now we're like leaving again or whatever.
So there's still like tons of side quests in Act 2 you haven't done. So that makes more sense. Like, okay, I could see now how you got there. Yeah, because it definitely sounds like you're going at the pace that similar to what I mean, I don't know. The game doesn't tell me. I'd have to. I don't know if the save files say it on it, but like if I looked at like my Act 2 save and where I'm at, like how much faster I got there versus my first playthrough. Because the first playthrough, especially if you're blind and you don't know anything, and it's just a blind run, you're also controlling more characters at once, so you got to learn the combat. But you have someone who's done it already. They're controlling 2 of the characters, and like you said, you're not exploring necessarily all the boxes or talking to everybody. So that would be why it goes over. So that makes more sense now. Okay.
I also am usually able to intimidate my way out of a lot of battles. So I guess again, I don't really have to avoid spoilers or anything. We went to the Toll House last night.
Yep.
And I intimidated my way like out of that whole thing. So I don't know if there was like a battle that you had to do or if there was like this other stuff, but I just went and talked to the gold NPC and was like, I gave them a gold and they were like, more. I was like, no, asshole. And they were like, okay. And they exploded. And he was like, oh, good job.
Yeah, I talked my way out of that in both my playthroughs. I think I did them slightly different, but yeah, that's a fun one you can talk your way out of.
Yeah, so it's like there's a lot of, and I've also intimidated my way into combat a lot, so maybe it's balanced out a little bit. But in my game time on,
did you say you've intimidated your way into combat?
Yeah, I've pissed a lot of people off. But I think I've intimidated my way out of battles more often than I've pissed people off to the point where they want to fight me. So, balances out a little bit. Also, our Steam time is maybe a little bit inflated because we do tend to leave it on when we like go and take a break and stuff, which I guess we shouldn't do because the game starts to get a little buggy after a while, especially on my computer. My computer's very upset with this game and it's like, I'm too old for this shit. So we probably need to like close
Act
it.
3 gonna get you.
So God, I hope they patch that by now.
They did, but she's running a.
We're not on console, and Michael hasn't really had a problem with it, I don't think. But we'll see. I mean, I still have it on fairly high settings. I could always turn it down and not really bother me to any degree. Yeah. But I do.
Yeah, there's just a lot in 3. Yeah.
On my game, I have a lot of texture pop in, so I don't know if that's my computer or maybe like a setting that I have that's weird. So I need to maybe figure that out. But it doesn't bother me. Like that kind of stuff doesn't really bother me to a degree where it's like, oh, I need to fix this immediately. Like I need to stop what I'm doing. It's just like it's kind of funny when like the character is fully loaded in, but their like armor texture isn't, and then it just kind of pops in for a second. It's like it's just very interesting the way it's loaded, but it's on a backend type of thing. But I don't know. I always hear things about Act 3, but it was mostly like console, I think. It was, like,
PC had big stutters in the beginning as well, down in like just under 30.
I think it went back and forth. Like the PC fix is what broke it on console, and then I think the console fix temporarily broke it on PC. I don't know where it's at now. I mean, when I played through Act 3, it was okay-ish on console. Not great, but not unplayable like it was for a good week or two.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It'll probably be fine. I'm not too concerned about it, but it's just very funny. But yeah, I don't know if we'll play very much today, but probably go through during the week. I did also take a lot of breaks with the game running while I was watching GDQ stuff because there were runs that I wanted to watch live. So we probably would have been further if we had just been straight up making progress every time I was able to play. But I did accidentally romance Lae'zel, I think.
No, she likes it. She likes everybody, especially when you're
a little mean.
A little mean.
So that was pretty funny because last night after we were done playing, I was like, I'll stay on solo a little bit because I want to talk to the party NPCs. A lot of them had a lot of dialogue options I hadn't really gone through yet because we were just kind of cruising through the game. And so I was talking to her, and then she started just going in on it. I was like, oh,
I want to taste you.
Yeah, I was like, oops.
I was gonna say there's not much accident there. She's pretty much just like, I'm going to jump you now. And
she knows what she wants.
I was like, fair, okay.
It's funny though, because if you turn her down, then she's like, then who should I go after? And then like she'll talk about it later, like, yeah, I jumped Astarion or whomever, and
okay.
They were good.
I super am curious about that. So on my playthrough, none of my companions ever talked about hooking up with any other companions. And I feel like that was a common thing that other people have discussed. And I just never witnessed it, or no one ever talked about it.
I feel like Lae'zel is the only one that would.
They weren't confident in sharing it with you.
Oh, I had a really funny encounter with Withers. He asked me why I haven't banged anybody yet. I was like, that's none of your business. Hello?
It's a good question. I mean,
that's funny.
It's just looking
there
out
was
for
no
you.
option to be like, I'm working on Carlock, so
Yeah,
He's just looking out for you.
I guess
Yeah.
I was like,
So-
what are you talking about, you little mummy man?
Did you have you been making sure to progress Karlak's stuff? Like when you celebrated after the goblin stopping the raid at camp, like you made sure to talk to her and like make advances there to get her story. Otherwise, she won't again.
We're working
Okay,
on her story. That's one of the things that Michael's been looking up for me, basically, and he'll kind of hint. He'll be like, "Hey, you should probably, we should probably take Carlock over here, or you should talk to her over here." So he's been kind of helping me advance.
Very
that,
subtle hints.
Yeah.
Do this about this person that I know you want hints about.
Yeah.
So, I wonder about that too. Like you need to do that because you can mess it up. Like you get, like the only thing I messed up was I missed Damon in the Grove in Act 1. I didn't even know he was there. And then when I got Karlak later, like I never went and talked to him. And then it was just like, oh, you missed him. And I talked to him in Act 2, but because I didn't talk to him in Act 1, and then that didn't prompt the interaction at the party, so I could never get anywhere with Karlak.
And I'm not super like, it's not a matter of like, she's a conquest kind of thing. Like my goal is to bang her, the sort of thing. It's like, I just want to do her story properly most of all.
Right. I thought you were just going to leave that as like, I just want to do her.
Yeah, you're not Bill Murray in Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, it's like I don't care necessarily if they hook up, like my character and Karlak. It's like I just want to do her story the best that I can.
Right.
And it's like I do want to do everybody's story, especially Asterian's. This is really interesting, but it's like hers in particular. Like I already had the moment of like I got to hug her, so it was like mission accomplished. I'm good now.
Yeah,
I just wanted a hug.
And it's not like you can't do people's stories without being in that relationship with them, but being in the relationship with someone does add extra flavor text in conversations, which is nice. Like I had it like in my first run, I ended up just through no fault of my own, just romancing with Shadowheart. So like the dialogue I'd have with her, especially during some pivotal...
Through no fault of my own, I ended up romancing her.
No, I understand, because apparently I'm in a relationship with Lae'zel now, and I didn't know that was happening.
Yeah,
so.
like in the early days, Lae'zel used to come on super strong. Like she would, like her approval of the tab would like shoot through the roof super fast in the early days. So like, she was like, that was the speed run, right? The like, how quickly can you romance Lae'zel? Like that was one of the speed runs people do. And it's like, yeah. So I ended up, we ended up hooking up, and it was like that. Okay, we did that, and then it's like, and then I was talking to Shadowheart, but I was interested in Karlak, but I failed the Karlak one, and then I just through conversations and approval with Shadowheart, she ended up even Gale tried, he wanted to take me to the Weave, and look at, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, man, I'm just friends.
I got that cutscene with Gale too, where he was like, I'm gonna teach you about the Weave, and then it was like, he was like, even the narrator goes, oh, it's almost intimate enough for a kiss, and I was like, I'm good.
Yeah,
the Gale one cracked me up because like I felt like a clueless guy going into that, of like I had no idea he was hitting on me when he was like, I'm going to teach you about the Weave, and then suddenly the tone changes and I'm like, I thought you just wanted to teach me about magic. I was like, I feel betrayed.
Yeah. Even Halsin comes on to you super strong in Act 2 and whatnot, but yeah,
Halsin rejected me in Act 1, and I'm like, I don't even know, like I wasn't even hitting on you, bro. Why are you rejecting? I think originally the text was like, you basically just ask him like how he's doing, and he's like, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in you, and like that. I'm like, bro, I just like you were in prison. I'm really just like looking to see how you're doing.
Yeah.
He told me that he likes ducks.
Yep. But yeah, so I ended up romancing Shadowheart, and yeah, when important stuff happens in their story, like it is nice to have that extra flavor text and conversations when it's like, like I'm glad I'm here for you, and like, I'm glad you're here for me, and I can count on you, stuff like that, and this and that. But
and that's basically all I wanted. Like I wanted the like I kind of got to that level with Astarion where it's like my Tav and Astarion are just gay besties, and that's exactly the level that I wanted. I wanted him to be like, open but a little bit sassy.
Mm-hmm.
So like we can insult each other and he still approves. So that's where I wanted on that. With Carl, like I just wanted her to be like bubbly and like happy and huggy. Like I wish I could get to the point where I could just go and hug her at camp at any time, but it's fine.
Yeah, I haven't made any progress more on my Dirge playthrough either, Isley. Just I've been busy playing.
Where did you leave off on your playthrough?
I'm still in the Gauntlet of Shar. Like I'll make like little progress. Like I logged in a while ago, like, okay, it's where I'm at. I'm like fighting those like ghost manta rays or whatever on the mushrooms, and they're like, okay, fight these guys, and then yada yada. So I'm not like crazy far, and I think I forget who else I might have fought. I think I definitely did that fight with the one dude who Raph tells you about. But yeah, I'm just in the Gauntlet of Shar. I haven't talked to the person that's there, but yeah, that's where I'm at. But yeah, I don't remember if I talked about it when I beat it, but you know, God of War Ragnarok Valhalla, I beat that a while ago, but there's like extra story content in that game if you keep playing it. I ended up just like watching the YouTube cutscenes for it, but like you can find out more. There's like
hold on before you go on. Is this the DLC they patched in? Because I haven't played that yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a DLC. I won't talk like spoil like.
Yeah.
But there's just like so like you do the main stuff. Okay, you do it. You run through yada yada. You finish. You complete it, and then it's like okay, you're done. But then if you keep going and keep doing more runs, there's like more information you can find out about, you know, it's just mainly just Kratos talks more about his past with his wife. And it's like, but you have to do more runs. And then if you keep doing a ton of runs, there's more backstory you can find out between, what's the Valkyrie? Oh, I'm blanking on the Valkyrie's name who used to date Mimir. But anyways, like you find out more between how Mimir met her, their relationship, and his backstory. But it's like, and there's like this bigger story between those two characters, but you have to keep doing like a ton of extra runs. And it's so weird that like I have a problem with games that do too much extra story content after you finished it. Like I don't mind when there's a little bit like you know, Metal Gear Solid 5, like okay, you beat the game, and now if you do a couple extra missions, and then you do like these special missions, and then you replay the first mission of the first opening bit of the game, and you see from a new perspective, and then you unlock you know, cassette tapes that give you more story. Like I don't mind that because like you know the objective, just play a couple side quests, it unlocks the bonus one. You play a couple side quests, it unlocks the bonus one. So it's like I don't mind that because like if it's a clear thing, but this is just like, oh, you know, you just keep going and then Kratos and Mimir talk. It's like there's no necessarily indication that there's more story. Like it's just like, oh hey, it's that typical end game. Oh, you beat the game, you could still keep running and get better, yada yada. Not, hey, there's more story to unlock, keep going. And that kind of bugs me when they do that in games. But so someone had a YouTube compilation of it, and I just watched it because it's not even like you beat it and there's a cutscene. It's like story exposition between Kratos and Mimir, like in normal gameplay. So you got to keep playing it, and it's because the game's randomized on where you go. You have to keep doing it until you get to that area that prompts him to talk about it. And it was just kind of like, it's interesting, but it's just annoying. Like I would never do this on my own. Like if someone hadn't put up this video, I would never known about it. But yeah, so that was interesting. And then I did finish Immortals of Aveum. I beat it last night. It sucks because I'm like, man, there's like an interesting story there, and I wish, and there's some fun characters in that game, and I just wish like they could have given like the story like another pass. Because like I like the overall story, I like full on spoilers for Immortals of Aveum. Not that it matters, it's not going to be in a DLC or a second game. But talking before, like so there's this Everwar where people are fighting over magic, yada yada. And there's this creature called the Pentasod, which is like this god-like creature who created. I don't think they created mankind, but they live in the Shadow Realm where the magic comes from. The humans have harnessed it, and so I've talked before. They use too much magic. The magic can't return back to the Shadow Realm. It caused the great wound at the center of the world, and that kind of split each of the regions. And everybody's fighting over it. Everybody wants the magic, yada yada yada. But then you learn, like going through this, that you learn that he created, the Pentasod created these creatures called the Allori, who you meet earlier in the game because they've been exiled by humans. They fought them back and they drove them underground because they look scary, I guess, and they absorb magic. They eat magic, and so like, oh, these creatures are dangerous. Get rid of them, yada yada. And they can't talk English except the one you come across named Rook. And so you learn that the Pentasod created them as a unique race to go up and help as the humans pull magic from the Shadow Realm. They absorb the magic themselves to return it, so they keep everything in balance. But because they got drove away thousands of years ago, the magic can't return. That's why the wound was created. And the big bad's like, Sandrak, he wants to control the magic to end the Everwar, but as soon as he gets the Binding Stone, he becomes like corrupt with the magic and just goes kind of insane. And even that friend I told you about, who I knew was going to be the friend the whole time, who was on the bad guy's side, she ends up like protecting Jack at one point, and then the Sandrak's like, oh, you betrayed me, yada yada. But he ends up winning. So like he goes to the last font of magic that's available and he wants to absorb it. And Jack goes there to stop him. And you fail. And so then like a month goes by because Jack, like he gets saved by his friend, but they go to their old childhood place and where they grew up, the city over the wound. And Sandrak, he just used his magic to prevent anybody else from using magic except for his forces. So like you can't use magic in this when it opens up a month later, but you find out like he controls everything. No one knows what he's doing, but he clearly hasn't ended the war. Like he's trying to do something. And you find out, okay, well, the leader of the Immortals, Kirkin, is held captive by him, but working with him to help him on his endeavors. And he's become so like crazy that he thinks the Pentasod is afraid of him because now he controls all the magic in Aveum. So he wants to, and because he did that, there's this like out of the wound underneath the statue of the Pentasod is like this swirling dark matter. There's like this corruption in the world you see in the game. It's like a tornado of that corruption, and that corruption's caused because of the magic's not returning to the Shadow Realm, so there's corruption everywhere, yada yada. And he's like, oh, the Pentasod's so mad, he's causing this, corruption tornado that's going to destroy the world, so I need to kill the Pentasod. And it's like, okay. And so then Kirkin's like, she helps him build this like bathysphere, this magical bathysphere to like go into the Shadow Realm because you can't get there normally, but because he has so much magic, he can force his way there. He goes there and he wants to kill the Pentasod, and you go there, the Pentasod shows up, but Jack makes a deal, like, I'll go with you, but you gotta let me talk to the Pentasod because he thinks he has some connection with them. Because you keep going to the Shadow Realm every time you try to confront Sandrak when he absorbs one of these fonts, and the Pentasod always shows up and sends you back out because you can't get out of the Shadow Realm otherwise. Like there's no way to do it. But the Pentasod sends you back. So when you find Rook, the Allori, he tells you like, oh, the Pentasod must like you because normally you can't get out of the Shadow Realm, yada yada. And so he goes, all right, I'll go there with you, but you gotta let me talk to the Pentasod because I think I can negotiate with it, this and that. And like, of course, this giant beam, like this four-face helmet, and it's really cool design. But like, it shows he's like, hey, my name's Jack, and he's like trying to talk to this essentially God being, but it doesn't, it doesn't speak English, but it's just like looking at him. He's like, hey, I just, wanted to make sure that you're not, I don't think you're the one causing this, destruction of other, but if it happens, it's going to destroy both Avium and the Shadow Realm and this and that. And like, it starts to like walk off and he's like, the Pentasod's walking away and Jack's like, hey, well, yeah, but I talked to the Elorian and Rook said that, maybe you took a like, but as soon as you say Rook, like the Pentasod just like looks back and then teleports instantly back towards you, which freaks out Sandrak. He shoots at it. Pentasod attacks him, but then it teleports Jack away. And you end up, that's how you learn about the Pentasod creating the Elori to eat magic and this and that and yada yada. But then so in the final bit, it's like, okay, you get out of there, you find out he's going to use the magic in the Binding Stone from the fonts to pull the Pentasod to Avium out of the Shadow Realm, bind him, and then destroy him. And so he's grouped like all the people together, like this is how he's going to save the world. He can't convince him otherwise because he's too obsessed that he thinks the Pentasod is jealous. And like you try to convince Kirkin that no, this isn't the case. He's going to destroy the world and the Shadow Realm. He does. We need to use the Elori to help us, free the Pentasod and destroy Sandrak. And then Kirkin like doesn't want to do it. And so through this whole chain of command thing, she gets removed because she's no longer part of, she was the leader of the Immortals, but not anymore because essentially they're just a renegade group now. They're no longer part of a...
This really sounds like the most anime game ever.
Yeah.
Like,
and then,
Jesus.
Yeah, so they kick her out. The big muscle mommy takes over. She's one of the like commanders, but she's like this huge buff woman. Everybody likes her. But and so she takes over and she's like, okay, I agree with Jack, and like you end up going up there and your friend shows up to help and yada yada, but you stop him and you free the Pentasod, and now you're beginning to heal the world, and that's kind of how it ends. So I'm like, okay, but it does that thing where it's like there's Kirkin's gone and she's probably mad because there's like no way to convince her once she's set on something. She's very stubborn. And you also learn like so Sandrak used to be part of the Immortals like back in the day, but he's also from the he's also Rasharian, which is like the dominant nation in the world. There's who the Immortals are at war with. I think it's Lucian is the region that they represent. So it's like Lucian against the Rasharians. Rasharan has like ton of crazy magic, yada yada. But he was fighting with the Immortals, but then he found out that apparently Kirkin had poisoned the ley lines in Rasharia. And because of that, no one has been born with magic since she did that. So they don't have any magic users. They have no Magni, which are like their forces. Nothing like that. So that attack is what made Sandrak turn against the Immortals and go fight for Rasharn again. And so you find out that like, oh, she did this really bad like war crime essentially in their world and yada yada, and she's gone. But yeah, it's like, so it sets up like, okay, you can kind of see where there can be another game where there's still loyalists to Sandrak because he's dead, but not everybody knows he's dead, and you still got to heal the world, this and that, and it's like I can kind of see where they can go. But it's like, and there's so many fun side characters. There's this one guy, Thaddeus, but he's like the actor. He's like a character from like the Wild West, kind of like the way he talks, the way he acts, but he's such a fun character, and like there's so many fun. There's also this other character to me early on. I forget her name because they don't ever bring her back. But there's just these really fun characters, and I'm like, man, I feel like if you had just, because it seemed like it really went a little quick in some spots, and some of the like fight cutscenes, I'm like, it went a little quick, and I'm like, you could have like, stretch this out a bit. And like, there's this one character that's, on your side who ends up dying, but it doesn't feel that impactful when they do die. And because things are moving so quick, the characters don't actually get to talk about the death of this other character until essentially after the game is over. And then you can like, talk to people, and you talk to this one person, you're like, we never got a chance to talk about so-and-so's death, yada yada. And like, oh, well, when you were gone that whole month after Sandrak won, like I essentially, grieved over the loss of our friend and this and that. But it was just, I feel like they had all the ingredients there. And because there are a lot of parts of the game, like it does work, but then other parts where it doesn't quite work. And it feels like it was just a little rushed, but it's like, it's frustrating to see them. It's like, there's clearly potential. And it's definitely one of those games like where they probably could have really improved the second one, but they're just not going to get that chance. It is funny. There's that one character, Thaddeus, earlier in the game, like when you go to meet him, and he's near all the Allori underground because like he left the Immortals, and you meet him, yada yada. But then like the hand of Sandrak shows up, who's Jack's friend, who quote unquote died in the wound but didn't die, and she shoots Thaddeus, so like he gets like oblique shot, I guess, with magic, and like it looks like he dies, and so Jack thinks he's dead, and like he's dead, and then later you find out like, he reaches out to you and he's like, Jack, I need to come talk to you, because at one point you quote unquote defeat Sandrak, but you don't actually defeat him. He got away, and so Thaddeus tells Jack like, no, he's still alive. He's over in this place healing up, and he goes, he's like, wait, you're alive? How'd that happen? He's like, oh, I got revived stone, this and that. And he goes, you're gonna have to tell everybody that you're alive. And like, he's like, hey, I'm not the one who told everybody I was dead, because Jack was the one just going around like, Thaddeus is dead, Thaddeus is dead. So just kind of this funny, but the way he says it to him, I thought was just really funny. It's like, well, obviously, if someone dies, the person who witnessed it is going to tell everybody, but to use it as hey, I don't have to do this because you're the one that said it, I thought was just really amusing. But yeah, it was, like I said, a lot of fun characters and beautiful world. It's Unreal Engine 5, so it's like there's this training area in like their main citadel that they hang out in, which is like also floats in the air, which looks really cool. And it's called like the Path, and it's like this magic realm that they train in, but it reminds me a lot of Control, because the environment is constantly shifting. So like you'll be running through on a platform for traversal stuff, and suddenly like the platform will just like shift and like a whole different thing. You have to like adapt to it on the fly. If you're moving too quick, you got to really like, you have to have good sight reading skills. Otherwise you just got to take it slow and like slowly walk and wait for it to adjust and this and that. But it's such a cool area. And again, it reminds me so much of Control with like just a change in environment. But it's so much faster. And it was just a really interesting area. And it's also like, it's controlled by like a living presence, which is really curious. But yeah, it was a game that had, again, a lot of potential. And I just feel like they just needed to let it cook a little more, I suppose. But yeah, because there's a lot of fun stuff in there. But
it sounds interesting. It just doesn't sound like yeah, it sounds like they didn't resolve much of it.
Well, it's, and I feel like the writing too, like the main character of Jack, like I feel like they needed to tone him down a bit. And like I said, I talked about in previous episode how there's a part where he can choose between getting the like a glyph to destroy the binding stone or use the binding stone, and he chooses to use it, and the device that gives him that power gets destroyed. And he lies that, oh, I got the power to, like, his whole mission was to go to this place, get the power to destroy the binding stone to stop Sandrak. But he lies about it. But there's never any indication that he would lie. And this choice just came out of nowhere. And so it was so weird. Obviously, it turns out to be the right choice, because then later he controls the binding stone. And because that's how he ends up helping heal the wound at the end of the game and free the Pentasod. So it's like, okay, it all works out, but it was just kind of weird. And again, the way they handled the friend being the hand of Sandrak, like, was just handled way too clumsy. He shouldn't have known. There's no inclination that he would have known. And it was so weird, like the way they explained it, because she falls down the wound in the beginning of the game. Like, oh, she fell down. Maybe she just died and got resurrected by magic. I don't know. But they show a cutscene later where like you see her fall from her perspective. She falls, and as she's falling, she gets like attuned to the blue magic, which also gives you the ability to fly. And so she falls. Her gauntlet then shines bluer because now she's got more control of magic. I guess it's like that fight or flight, like I gotta save myself situation. It's like, okay, because it's kind of what happened to him when he explodes with power and, fights the person at the beginning of the game. But it looks so weird. Like she just falls and then she's floating and she's like, huh? It's like, oh, I guess I got this. And then like she goes up to help Jack, but then one of the ships intercepts her and takes her hostage. And that's why she's with the Masharnians now. It was just so weird. I was like, you couldn't have played that a little differently, like I guess. But it was such a short cutscene too, like way late in the game to explain how she survived. But yeah, there's just a lot of potential there. And then there was, I felt like at the end, like a lot of the gameplay loop, I got kind of tired of it. Like I didn't mind it through like probably 3/4 of the game, but I feel like there wasn't enough variety there later on to really make it as interesting. I feel like they could have done a little more rock, paper, scissors stuff with certain enemy types, because there were some enemies who are like, okay, they're just kind of frustrating to deal with. And when you're dealing with just a horde of enemies, of like normal enemies and then certain other enemy types, I'm like, I feel like there could have been some better balancing with the way you use the 3 different types of magic against, as well as some other abilities you get against these guys to make it more fun. But I mean, you see that with some games where like a gameplay loop can be great up front, and at the end you're like, all right. Yeah, I usually never have that with like, oh, you always fight the same enemy. There's no real enemy variety, this and that. Usually I have no issue with that, depending on the type of game it is. But this is just like, okay, you had a lot of these fun mechanics that you use early on, but you don't really do more with them later. I feel like you could have done something more interesting with those, but yeah. Who knows? Well, I mean, obviously the studios, they let go a lot of people, so I don't know if they'll do anything. They'll probably end up shutting down. I don't know. They probably won't do much else, but yeah. And then after that, I did pick up Dying Light. Was on sale on PC. I did add that to my library. It's like, okay. I don't know why. I was replaying on PS5 already previously. It's like, but I'll add it to my Steam library just to have it. There's also the definitive edition, so it came with the following. I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just jump straight into the following and just replay that segment. But I have to get past the tutorial opening bits of the game before I can actually do that. And then, did you beat Dying Light 2, Isling?
Yeah, I beat Dying Light 2.
Okay. I think we talked about playing that co-op, but I
remember. Did I? No. I didn't beat Dying Light 2 because I bought Dying Light 2 and then I started playing it. Never made progress because we talked about playing it co-op, and
we should play that.
Sorry, I was mixing up Dying Light 2 and the exclusive edition for Dying Light 1.
Yeah, we should play Dying Light 2.
Like an hour of it.
Yeah, we should go in there. I would love to replay that because I do like the world, and that it's a lot of fun, and I feel like the traversal stuff they added in there would be really cool. Obviously, and they've made a lot of updates to that game since launch. So I'd be curious to see how different it was. I liked how it was to begin with, but that would be a fun game to play co-op through.
I want to go back and still beat the Dying Light 1 DLC. I think I have like a few trophies left from the DLC that I just never even did.
Yeah.
Both would be fun.
Yeah, definitely do Dying Light 2. We should play that. I think I still have it downloaded. I'll have to re-download it probably, but I wouldn't mind going back and playing that again. That'd be a lot of fun. And then I want to play. I saw Northern Lion played like a escape room simulator, which on Steam I think it's like $15, but like I guess there's like a versus mode where you can like play with a bunch of people and you're all in the same escape room, and it has like you can see the ghost of each person, and you're like it's a speed run to see who could solve the stuff the quickest. And it was fun to watch, but I was like, this would be kind of fun to do with like just a couple people, but then you got to get people to, like you said, trying to get someone to play Remnant 2. It's like, okay, I got to get enough people to play a escape room.
It's like trying to gather enough people to play an actual escape room.
I started watching that escape room thing from Northern Lion that you posted, and I was just getting so frustrated at like how quickly everyone was moving without critical thought. It was driving me nuts. I was just like, oh my god, you are like just picking up everything and rotating everything, and not like, I'm like, there are symbols right here that are teaching you what to do, and you are not noticing the symbols. Pay attention to the fucking symbols. It was driving me nuts.
Yeah, in that first room, like everybody was brute forcing their way through it, and the second room, it was much more like pay attention. But I watched Northern in the second room. If you get there, there's like this bit with some. That's the problem. I don't watch too much of it because I want to play it. But if I watch it, then it's going to ruin playing it because like, oh, let's do this one. I'm like, well, I know all the solutions. But there's this one where like there's a butterfly puzzle and like he sees the clue that tells you about the butterfly puzzle, and then just watching him fumble his way, like he was in last place and he couldn't figure out the butterfly puzzle for like the longest time, and it was so frustrating to watch it. But then it was really funny because then he finally figures it out, and then he just solves so many of the other puzzles right away. One, he does he doesn't find the clue to tell you what it is, but he knows like the numbers, so he just kind of brute forces his way through that one. But then someone else gets stuck on the butterfly puzzle that Chibley does, and it's just so funny hearing him complain like, bro, I don't know what to do. But it's in that New Zealand accent. It's so funny.
I would love to play an escape room game. I mean, I would love to go to an escape room in real life, actually. But I would play that. I had to stop watching because I was like, well, if the escape rooms, if there aren't a ton, I have watched enough of the first one that I know the solutions. But it seemed fun.
There has to be I know there's like they had like a steampunk pack and a Wild West pack as well, and I think they have 2 episodes out total that he's put on YouTube, and they're an hour each. And I think in the first one I started the third room, but I stopped kind of there at the third room, and I think they do a fourth one, and then that second episode is also similar length. And they are like once someone solves it, then it does add like a time limit for everyone else to finish. I think they like you finish it and then it gives you like 5 minutes.
Do they have like a cooperative mode thing where they're harder to solve or something, but you're doing them with each other instead?
I don't know if they're harder. Again, I didn't look at it. It just the video just jumped right into it, and I was going to buy it to see, but I'm sure there is. It's probably like play by yourself, play with a friend, and you're working together.
Yeah,
and then play versus. And I like the idea of versus better because then it's like it could be like, oh man, I'm stuck on this, and then like you can kind of give clues on, like, oh well, maybe if you look at it, like it was so funny hearing. There's one bit where like dumb dog Apollo's like, oh, I can't solve this. It's only giving me this, and someone's like, no, all the information's there. So then he's like, oh, so I'm just an idiot then. I can't solve it. And he's like, it's there. But it was frustrating because sometimes I'd try to look at it to solve it, like when he's doing the thing. But if he moved too quickly, I'd be like, how did he? I'd be like, hold on, he didn't go quick enough. How to get it? It's like there are some puzzles where like, yeah, he found the solution, but because he brute forced his way, like I want to know, like, okay, what's the proper way to actually do this?
Yeah, I just I like the versus thing is an interesting concept. I guess the only reason it bothers me is like going speed on games like that is I feel like it leads to brute forcing. And I guess the one thing that would like make it less fun is if we're playing it at night or something, we're not going to be talking that much because you have to be quiet after a certain hour, and so do I. So it's like,
well, I could talk. I just can't. I won't be yelling, but I'd still be like,
well, yeah. But the yelling is what makes that funny. Is the shit talking and yelling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could get loud. I don't usually get loud. But, I guess I like if you're like, angry. Oh, I can't solve this bird puzzle. I'd be like, dude, can't solve the bird puzzle. Gotta look at the cloaca. But no,
gotta look at the cloaca.
No,
I gotta, it's not needed. But again, just trash talk. You just make up stuff. But no, it'd be fun to play. But it's only on Windows, Linux, and Mac. So it's Escape Simulator isn't on console. Is the only thing. So, but I mean, it's fine.
I gotta buy a new PC this year, anyways.
Yeah, you gotta get that laptop,
bite the
man.
bullet.
Yeah, you got that little bit of bonus from your work, right? Yeah, that was the thing that was holding you back from buying a computer.
It's still painful.
You gotta do it. Do it.
I'm waiting for a good sale now.
Oh man, there were so many. Yeah,
I know, but I didn't get the bonus until after the good sales were over. Yeah. So
I know. Yeah, rough spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, now I'm just looking to play. I'm trying to think of. Look at my Steam list. What I want to finish now that I'm done with Immortals of Aveum. I need to buy another hard drive for my computer because I realize now I've kind of just been ignoring install sizes, and then I'm like, I looked at when I was installing Dying Light. I was like, Yeah, I should probably get it. Oh, that's the one game I wanted to try was Factorio, because I don't think it was on sale, but I was like, you know what? I played so much room auction not included. I should try Factorio. It seemed kind of similar, but I didn't realize like there was like a survival bit, like enemies attack you. Plus, you can't play that game just with the mouse. So like, I was trying to play the demo with my kids sitting on my lap, but it's like trying to reach at the keyboard to hit stuff at the same time in the tutorial section was like so hard to do. I'm like, I can't play this. Is like, I can't play this game if he's sitting with me watching something like I can with Oni. So I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever get back to trying out the demo to see if I like it or not. But yeah, anyway, yeah, I got to figure out what else to play next. Probably, I mean, I got a lot of options, but got to pick something before end of February and play Final Fantasy. But all right,
play Final Fantasy.
Well, I'll play Rebirth, but I don't know about 14.
I was gonna say, don't fall into the 14 trap. You know, that's what she wants.
Yeah, because then I got my other friend on Discord, like, because he's playing Horizon 11. He's like, "Oh, you should play it," and I'm like, I don't know if I'll play Horizon, because I'm sure it'd be fun for nostalgia just to go check out some places. But then I'm like, I won't want to replay that whole thing. Like, there's no way I'd want to spend the time grinding and doing all that nonsense. But anyways, all right. Well, we can go ahead and wrap it up there. So thank you all for tuning in and listening. Thank you, Izzy. Thank you, Zara, for joining.
Yep.
And we'll see you all next time.